What have I done? What have I let happen? I crossed a line I can never uncross, invited something dark, twisted, into the space where love was supposed to be safe. I let desire blind me, silence my better judgment. I'm his mother. And now, every touch, every kiss, every breath we shared feels poisoned. I'm disgusted with myself. This wasn't freedom, it was betrayal. Of him, of me, of everything I was supposed to protect. My bedroom isn't just where I sleep, it's where I come alive. Tucked away from the noise of the world. It's my sanctuary, my secret. The city hums faintly outside my window. But in here, everything is still. Soft fairy lights glow overhead, casting warm shadows on the walls. And in the corner stands the pole, sleek, solid, waiting for me. It's not about performance or attention. It's about me, reclaiming something that life tried to take away. Years of motherhood, heartbreak, routine, they dulled the edges of who I used to be. But here, in this space, I peel back those layers. I remember the fire in my body, the ache in my hips, the strength coiled in my core. When the music starts and I wrap my fingers around that cold metal, it's like touching freedom. Each spin, each stretch, reminds me I'm still here, still sensual, still powerful, still mine. I'm not just someone's mother, or someone's ex. I'm a woman with a body that moves like poetry and a soul that refuses to disappear. This room, this pole, it's not about seduction. It's about truth. And in this quiet, glittering corner of my world, I feel more like myself than anywhere else. I was mid-spin, body arched, thighs gripping the pole, when I heard it, the soft creak of the door behind me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I turned my head, heart hammering against my ribs. And there he was, Caradoc, standing in the doorway, still, silent, watching. For a split second, the world tilted, my pulse roared in my ears. And my body, still wrapped around the pole, tensed under his gaze. His eyes met mine, and I saw it, not just shock, but something deeper, something darker, something he didn't mean to show. I slid down the pole slowly, my bare feet touching the floor with a soft whisper. My bodysuit clung to my skin, the lace kissed with sweat and moonlight. I reached for the nearest throw, draping it over my shoulders, not to hide, but to breathe. Caradoc, I whispered, my voice low and unsteady. I didn't know you were home. He didn't answer right away, just stared, his jaw clenched, then loosened. Finally, he said, quietly, carefully, you looked powerful. The word hung in the air like smoke, and in that moment, something flickered between us, something dangerous, something real. I hadn't moved, not really. My body was still warm, breath shallow from the dance. But now every nerve was alive for a different reason. He stood there, rooted like a statue, his hand still clutched the doorknob. But his gaze was locked on me. It wasn't childish embarrassment or accidental curiosity. It was something deeper. He saw me, not the woman who nagged him about dishes or the one who cooked Sunday pasta. He saw the other me, the woman who bared herself to the music and surrendered to movement. And something in his stare made it hard to breathe. I didn't know you did this, he said, voice low, rough at the edges. He swallowed like his throat had dried up. It's not something I talk about, I replied quietly, trying to find the calm in my voice again. It's for me. I reached for my wrap and clutched it around my body, not out of shame, but because of how exposed I felt under his eyes. Not physically, emotionally. It was terrifying to be seen so clearly. I wasn't expecting to see you like this, he admitted, but I couldn't look away. My heart jolted. He took one slow step into the room. Just one, but it cracked the air wide open. He wasn't retreating, he was leaning in. What does it feel like, he asked, when you dance like that? I hesitated, lips parting before I could form words. Like I'm finally allowed to exist. I whispered, not as a role, as a woman, as myself. He nodded slowly, his eyes tracing the curve of my shoulder. It looked incredible, he said. You looked like someone else. No, not someone else. Someone more complete. My breath hitched. The way he said it, the awe, the reverence, it wasn't inappropriate. Not yet, but it walked the edge of something dangerous. And I wasn't sure I wanted to pull back from it. I stepped away from the pole, barefoot on the wood floor, Every movement deliberate, controlled, my body still humming from the adrenaline of the dance. I could feel his eyes follow me, drinking in every breath I took. And instead of fear, I felt something else rise inside me. Desire, not just for him, but for the feeling he gave me. The way his gaze made me feel alive. Caradoc, I said softly, this is a line. He nodded, I know. But you're still here. I don't want to walk away. I closed my eyes. My heartbeat thrummed in my ears. I wanted to say it was wrong. I wanted to remind him I was supposed to be off limits. But the truth is, I didn't feel wrong. I felt seen, desired, and for the first time in years, I didn't want to hide. Then sit, I said, turning back to the speaker. Let me show you why I dance. The air pulsed between us, thick with tension and something unspoken. And as the music began again, I let myself move, for him. For me. For whatever this was becoming. He sat on the edge of the bed, slowly, cautiously, like any sudden movement might shatter the fragile spell holding the air between us. I didn't look at him right away. I couldn't. My pulse throbbed at the base of my throat. Loud, unruly, I turned toward the speaker and hit play. A low, haunting beat spilled through the room. It wasn't fast. It didn't need to be. The rhythm was deliberate, slow enough for breath to catch, for glances to linger. I stepped toward the pole, letting my fingertips graze its cool surface. My reflection flickered in the mirror, caught between the fairy lights and the candle glow. I let the music crawl through my body, coaxing me into motion, not to perform, but to reveal. My hips swayed with each slow step. My body rolled into the spin, gripping the pole with practiced ease. I twisted upward, the lace of my bodysuit stretching over muscle and curve. I let my head fall back, letting gravity and confidence take over. I didn't rush. I didn't need to. I could feel Caradoc's eyes, heavy, reverent, and for the first time, I welcomed the weight of his gaze. It didn't feel invasive. It felt inviting. As I descended, sliding down the pole into a controlled backbend, I saw his hands gripping the edge of the bed, knuckles white, breath visibly shallow. Good, I thought. Let him feel it. I moved to the floor, each movement fluid and intentional, the music guiding me like a current. I rolled, stretched, arched, every motion telling a story I hadn't spoken out loud in years. Caradoc shifted in his seat, his jaw tight, lips parted. I reached for the pole again, rising slowly. My thighs flexed around it as I pulled myself into an aerial pose. The burn in my core was fire and freedom. When I twisted down, landing in a deep squat, I let my eyes meet his. Something flickered in them, not lust, not only that. It was awe, confusion, longing, and something that scared him. And me. The song faded into silence. But I didn't move. I stood there, breathing hard, body trembling, not from the dance, but from the silence that followed. He was still watching me, his chest rising and falling. That, he began, voice raw, that wasn't just a dance. No, I said softly, it wasn't. Our eyes locked again, and that invisible line between us, the one we both knew shouldn't be crossed, suddenly felt paper thin. You're beautiful, he whispered, and something inside me ached at the sincerity in his voice. The ache wasn't shame, it was desire, real, slow burning, terrifying. I took a step toward him. One step, and then another. He didn't move, neither did I. We just breathed, facing the gravity of what we'd stirred up. And I knew, this was only the beginning. The silence between us pulsed louder than any music could. Caradoc was still sitting at the edge of the bed, hands gripping the sheets, shoulders tense. I stood a few steps away, chest rising and falling as if I were still dancing, though the music had long faded into memory. He didn't speak, neither did I. But the air between us, it was heavy, saturated, every molecule charged with something we weren't supposed to feel. I stepped closer, slow and cautious, watching his reaction. His breath caught, his eyes flicked up to mine, wide, uncertain, and yet, he didn't look away. You're shaking, he murmured, his voice low and hoarse. So are you, I replied. I was close enough to see the flecks of gold in his irises, to smell the faint citrus of his cologne. His jaw flexed, but he didn't retreat, he didn't flinch, and that did something to me. I could feel the weight of it pressing against my chest. The way my body responded to his nearness with heat. With longing I didn't ask for. Desire had always lived quietly inside me, but now it was clawing its way out. I shouldn't be here, he whispered. But you are, I answered. And I didn't move. He looked down at my legs, bare, strong, wrapped in the glint of soft lace, and then back up. I could feel the war inside him. The tension in every part of his body. He was fighting it, fighting me, fighting this. But he was still here. I took one more step. Close enough now to touch. I could feel the heat rolling off him like a current. Invisible but undeniable. My fingers hovered near his cheek. But I didn't make contact. Not yet. You don't have to say anything, I said softly, but don't lie to me. His breath trembled. It's wrong. Yes, I whispered. It is. He looked up, and our eyes locked again, and in that instant, we stopped pretending. There was no turning away. No rewinding time. The truth was right here. Pulsing between us. Unspoken. Forbidden. Real. I've never felt this before. He admitted, voice barely audible. Not like this. Neither have I. He stared at my lips. I saw it, the hesitation. The pull. The moment he almost leaned forward, then stopped. So I did it for him. I closed the distance, slowly. Deliberately, and pressed a kiss to his forehead. Just that. A brush of warmth. Not possession. Not yet. But it was enough to make him close his eyes. To exhale like he'd been holding his breath since I started dancing. His hands rose, hovering inches from my waist. Shaking. Still not touching. Still holding the line. But barely. And I realized, the most dangerous moment wasn't when we touched. It was when we almost did. His hands still hovered, fingers curled. Suspended just above my waist. He didn't move. Neither did I. We were frozen in that breathless space where choice lived. Where one step forward would change everything, and stepping back might shatter something we didn't yet have the words for. I could feel the warmth of his palms without the contact. Could feel how badly he wanted to close that space. And God, I wanted him to, not because it was right, but because it was honest. Touch me, I whispered. His eyes snapped to mine. Wide, cautious, needy. He didn't ask, are you sure? He knew. Because this, whatever this was, wasn't impulsive. It had been building, quietly, underneath dinners and hallway glances and evenings where we passed like strangers. And now it had burst through the surface like a gasp underwater. His hands landed on my waist, soft at first. Unsure, almost trembling, but then, firmer, like he couldn't hold back anymore. Like he'd been denying this gravity far too long. I didn't flinch. Instead, I let out a slow breath. And leaned in. Our foreheads touched. That simple point of contact burned hotter than any kiss. He exhaled shakily. This is insane, he murmured. I nodded, lips brushing against his temple. Then why does it feel so real? He finished, voice tight. I closed my eyes, let myself rest there, in that terrifying, forbidden stillness. My fingers drifted up to trace the line of his jaw, strong, smooth, tense. He turned slightly toward my touch. Like he needed it, like he'd been waiting for it. You don't see yourself the way I do, he said softly. When you danced, you weren't just beautiful. You were free, like you were untouchable. I swallowed. The truth of his words landed like a stone in my chest. I've spent years hiding her, I said. The part of me that still wanted to feel desired. Powerful, not just useful. His hand slid to the small of my back, pulling me an inch closer. You're not just useful, he said. You're everything. My lips brushed his cheek. The line was there, paper thin, worn down by truth, and with every shared breath, we were pressing against it. I don't want to stop, he said finally, but I will, if you ask. I didn't. I looked at him, this boy I helped raise into a man, this man who now looked at me like I was something sacred. And I whispered, then don't. His mouth found mine, soft, searching, but real. And when he kissed me, he wasn't just taking, he was giving me back to myself. The woman I'd buried under motherhood and silence. And in that kiss, everything changed, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. And honesty is the most dangerous kind of desire. His lips lingered on mine, hesitant at first, like he was waiting for me to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. The second we kissed, Something ancient cracked open in me, something I had sealed off long ago. My body leaned into his like it knew this moment had been waiting in the shadows. Caradoc's hands slid from my waist to my lower back, tentative but growing bolder, fingers tracing the line of bare skin between the bodysuit and my thigh. His breath caught against my lips. We pulled back, barely. I don't know where this leads, he whispered, eyes flickering down, then back up, as if he were afraid to name what was already happening between us. Neither do I said, brushing my fingers over his cheek. But we're already here. He nodded, silent but steady. I stepped back, not far. Just enough to break the gravity of the kiss. I turned slowly, walking toward the edge of the bed where the candlelight danced across the sheets. The lace clung to my skin, warm with movement, and I could feel his gaze following every shift of my body. I sat on the bed, legs crossed, and looked back at him. He didn't move. Come here, I said, softly. He crossed the room like he was moving through water, drawn. Reverent, but unsure of the ground beneath his feet. When he stood in front of me, I reached for his hand and pulled him down beside me. We sat together in the quiet, just breathing, close, but not yet entangled. I used to think the worst thing I could feel was loneliness. I said, barely above a whisper, but I was wrong. It's being seen and still feeling like I had to hide. Caradoc looked at me, really looked. You don't have to hide anymore, he said, not from me. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered at my jaw, trailing softly down my neck. My skin ignited where he touched. There was nothing rushed, nothing reckless, just wanting, woven with care. I shifted, turning toward him, my knees folding beneath me as I leaned in once more. Our mouths met again, deeper this time. Hungrier, but still careful, still asking, and I said yes with every sigh, with every inch I gave him. His hands slid down my sides, slow, patient, tracing the fabric, learning the shape of me, not like someone who wanted to take, but like someone memorizing something sacred, something forbidden. His forehead pressed to mine. If you want me to stop. I don't, I breathed, and neither did he. We didn't speak after that. We let our hands do the talking, our mouths, our bodies, and with every kiss, every shiver, the line between wrong and real blurred further, until it disappeared entirely. The room was quiet again. But this time, the silence was different. It wasn't hesitation, it was aftermath. The air between us shimmered with the heat of what we had done. The sheets still tangled beneath our bodies, our skin slick with the remnants of closeness. I lay on my side, propped on one elbow, watching Caradoc as he stared at the ceiling, chest rising and falling in slow, unsteady rhythms. His fingers were still brushing lazily against my thigh, absent-minded, like he was grounding himself in touch, like he couldn't believe I was real, that this had actually happened. I couldn't either. My body was buzzing, still pulsing with the imprint of him, but my mind was slowly starting to catch up, tracing the edges of what we'd crossed. He turned his head, his voice quiet but steady. Are you okay? I nodded. Are you? He gave a half smile, vulnerable and unsure. I don't regret it, he said, but I'm scared of what it means. His honesty hit me like a wave. That same fear was already blooming in my chest. Not fear of him, not of what we'd done, but of the world outside this room, of how cruel it could be to something so intimate, so unspeakable. I reached for his hand and laced my fingers through his. I don't know what this is yet, I said, but it wasn't meaningless. I need you to know that. He looked at me then, really looked. Like the weight of my words anchored him. It felt like everything I didn't know I wanted. He said softly, God. That ache in my chest returned, slow and deep. I traced my thumb over the back of his hand, memorizing the lines of him. We can't pretend it didn't happen, I whispered, and we can't just fall into it again without talking. Really talking. He nodded, his expression tightening. You mean rules? I mean boundaries, honesty, and no illusions. He sat up slightly, the sheet slipping off his torso, revealing the curve of his back and the tension still strung along his spine. I want this, he said, whatever this becomes, but I won't hurt you. I won't take more than you're willing to give. That made me reach for him again. Because it wasn't just lust between us. It was trust. It was knowing we had stepped into something dangerous, and still choosing to stay. I rested my head on his chest. His heartbeat steady beneath my ear. "We'll figure it out," I murmured. And for now, that was enough. The danger wasn't gone. The shame hadn't disappeared. But neither had the heat. And beneath it all, a truth neither of us could deny. We were no longer just two people under the same roof. We were something else now. Something untouchable, and utterly forbidden. Morning light spilled across the floor. Soft and uninvited, it crept over the sheets. Over my bare legs tangled in the blanket. And over Caradoc, still asleep beside me. He looked peaceful like this. The sharp lines of his jaw softened in sleep. His lashes casting shadows over his cheeks. One of his hands rested on the small of my back. His thumb brushing against me even now. Instinctively, like his body was unwilling to let me go. But I was already awake. Not just awake, spinning. Everything we did last night lived in my skin now. The bruises from the pole. The heat still blooming between my thighs. The kiss that still lingered on my mouth. Every moment had been real. Too real, and the weight of it pressed down harder in daylight. I sat up, clutching the sheet around me, watching as his eyes fluttered open. He blinked once, twice, then met my gaze. "Hey," he said, voice rough with sleep. I offered a small smile. "Hey." Silence settled between us, not cold, but fragile. We both felt it, the ache of things unspoken. The danger of pretending too long. "We need to talk," I said. Caradoc nodded, already sitting up, his posture tight. "I know." I pulled the sheet tighter around myself. Suddenly aware of my nakedness, not just physically, but emotionally. "Last night wasn't a mistake," I said carefully, "but it can't be something we just slip into again." He nodded. "I agree." His voice was calm, but I saw the storm in his eyes. "I don't regret it," he continued, "not for a second, but I also don't want to lose you, whatever this becomes. Or doesn't become. I need us to be real about it." That word, real, echoed through me. Because what we had done hadn't been about fantasy. There had been heat, yes, but there was also tenderness. Need, the kind of ache that came from being starved for connection. "I'm afraid," I admitted. He reached for my hand. "So am I." We sat there, fingers laced, eyes locked, the weight of the night before hanging between us like a secret vow. "I don't know how to label this," I whispered. "We don't have to," he said. "Not yet. But we need rules, boundaries." He nodded again. "Whatever you need." I exhaled slowly. "For now, we keep this between us. We don't rush. We talk. And if either of us feels like it's too much, we stop. No questions asked." His grip tightened on my hand. "Deal." He leaned in then, not to kiss me, but to press his forehead against mine. And there it was again, that magnetic stillness. The forbidden heat. The quiet truth. We had crossed a line. And now, we were walking it together. This story, as forbidden and complex as it is, reflects a deeper truth many of us face, the struggle to reclaim our identity, our desires, and our right to be seen, not just as roles we play, but as whole, emotional beings. In today's life, we often silence parts of ourselves to meet expectations. The advice? Don't wait for someone to walk in on your truth, own it. Whether through art, movement, or honest conversation, find a space where you can express who you are without apology. Authentic connection begins when we stop hiding, even from ourselves. Speak, move, be seen.